Citizen Kane is the Citizen Kane of all films, the 1941 directorial debut from cinematic enigma Orson Welles. Reviled by some, adored by many, it is considered by a fair chunk of people to be a great contender for the greatest movie ever made, which we are covering today on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Yes, we are covering the big one, the Citizen Kane of all films. No, not Paddington 2. It is, in fact, Citizen Kane itself. And I'm joined by my co-host, not guest host, Shane Mulvaney. Shane, how are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, Harry. Arsenal women won the Champions League over the weekend, so that was
Great success.
Yeah, that was a great moment. So just checking out all the celebrations and stuff that they've been posting. So yeah, great day for the Gunners.
Lovely. Yeah, I believe it or not, you won't be able to tell from my tan because, funnily enough, I spent the entire time indoors. But I've just come home from the Cannes Film Festival, so wait till the end as we discuss all the films we've watched recently because I've got a few interesting takes for you all. But in the meantime, yes, it is Citizen Kane, probably one of the most hyped films that we could possibly cover on a classic film podcast because Citizen Kane is it's the film that you are guaranteed to study if you go to film school. It's the film that you are guaranteed to write about if you are writing about film. It is maybe the most influential film in all of cinema. Its director and star, and I mean he did a whole load of other jobs on this film, Orson Welles, is one of the most memorable and iconic figures in all of cinema. There's countless documentaries and films made about this film alone, because it's Citizen Kane. What more do you want? It's terrific. Kane, just called you Kane.
There you go.
Charles Foster, I should address you by your full name. Shane, I'm sure because, of course, we studied it in college, because everyone studies it in college. But Citizen Kane, how does it feel to be covering such a monumental film on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean it's better late than never. Probably should have gotten around to it sooner rather than later. Sooner than this, I should say. But yeah, I mean it's so monumentally influential. Like like you said, literally countless books, countless documentaries made about this film alone. It's so influential for so many filmmakers ever since. And yeah, like it's one of those films I think where, for me anyway, I've seen it a few times now, but certainly the first time I was about to watch it, I was thinking to myself, right, it's been hyped up so much.
Yeah, that it can't be that good.
It can't possibly live up to my expectations. It's like I was almost cursing those people for like setting the bar too high. And then I watched that and I was like, okay, yeah, they weren't wrong. They weren't lying whatsoever. It's just insanely good. Like to pop this, to just make this casually when you're 26 years old. I mean, my God, Orson Welles, like, stop showing off, pal.
Yeah, we'll talk about Orson Welles in a bit, but the film itself came out in 1941 after a unheard of monster contract between RKO and Orson Welles, in which Orson Welles was to direct and star in and write two films for RKO Studios, provided that they weren't allowed see any of the film until Welles said so. But the counter to that was that RKO could pull the plug if they didn't like the story. Originally, Welles wanted to make Heart of Darkness, which is the book which Apocalypse Now is based on, but because Orson Welles planned on going over budget, they nipped that in the bud very early. Prior to Citizen Kane, Welles was a bit of a legend in Hollywood already, because he played one of the most infamous pranks in the history of the world, in which he read a copy of War of the Worlds live on the radio, and everybody in America, for a brief moment, thought that there was an alien invasion. So yeah, Wells at this point was already an icon for that prank, and he then went on to make Citizen Kane, which many, especially probably before Wells died, would say is when Wells basically jumped the shark with his first film, and that he never kind of matched those heights again. I think sometimes people take that a little bit too far. Wells made a lot of great films. I've seen a bunch of Orson Welles' films, and he made a lot of great ones. But yes, I do concur that Citizen Kane is definitely his best film. But that being said, don't ever think that Orson Welles was a one-hit wonder, because that man made a litany of great films.
Yeah, 100%. The name of the critic escapes me, but this person said that he made like one of the greatest films of all time and was never forgiven for it. Like, and that's pretty much that pretty much nails it in my opinion. Like, everything he did thereafter was expected to be as satirical and as biting as Citizen Kane, and a lot of it was like a lot of it really was very, very, very satirical, very, very critical. He got his swords out, but yeah, just I think he also wanted to do other things. So like the amount of studio interference in some of his films, we could talked about the Magnificent Ambersons. I do want to cover that on a podcast at some point, because that's probably arguably the most egregious example of that, where it's like they just did not and would not let him complete his cut of the film. But there was other films thereafter. There were other films that absolutely fall in that category. But he did want to do other things. So like he obviously did his Shakespeare adaptations. He did,
yes, Othello was very good.
yeah, like he didn't just want to make films about quote unquote great men, the rise and fall, etc. etc. These types of films. He wanted to kind of play with the form, and we saw that in The Lady from Shanghai. With that,
Yeah, it's a great film.
Like, first of all, Citizen Kane, the cinematography in this film is absolutely spectacular. But The Lady from Shanghai has like a funhouse mirror sequence that is genuinely blows my mind every time I think about it. I don't know how he achieved it. It's absolutely insane. Touch of Evil,
Yes.
that oneer at the start of the film that goes on for about 7 or 8 minutes, I want to say. I don't know the exact, but that's been aped and copied basically every single year from one film or another ever since. So like he really wanted to push the form as much as he could as well. So yeah, he didn't just want to kind of be seen as the guy who made quote unquote like art that delves deep into the psyche of the human race, etc., etc. He wanted to do other stuff as well.
Yeah, the film, when released, did not do very well at the box office. Wells himself actually said that at the premiere, the theater was basically empty, which is hilarious to think. But that's happened before, and will definitely continue to happen, where, you know, films get reevaluated. But that being said, the film did have basically an Avengers level threat of a team. It was edited by Robert Wise. The cinematographer was Greg Toland. The music is Bernard Herrmann. It's written by Orson Welles and Herman J. Mankiewicz, which obviously that movie Mank was made about, which I haven't seen. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah. It's good. It's
Thoughts?
interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's definitely not close to being my favourite David Fincher films. But yeah, I think he and his father, it's obviously Citizen Kane is hugely influential for both of them. And I think in terms of he wrote the film with his father, David Fincher. So from that point of view, it's a passion project for him. Great Gary Oldman performance. Tom Burke, who's a really good actor, he plays Orson Welles in the film. Does a good job, I would say. Definitely seen worse Welles imitations. Yeah, it's black and white. Obviously, it's
Nothing will ever beat Vincent D'Onofrio as Orson Welles in Ed Wood, though. That's the greatest. That's the greatest Orson, and he's only in it for like a scene. Yeah. It's the greatest Orson Welles performance of all time. It's absurd.
I still haven't seen that one. Have to get around to that. But yeah, like it's definitely awards baity, which, to be honest, I appreciate the fact that most of Fincher's work, even though he's this acclaimed director, like he he does kind of look at the killer. Like he does kind of he doesn't mind going to like B movie kind of trash,
Yeah.
like and he does the absolute most prestigious version of that as he could. But that's probably the most Mank is probably the most overt example of like Oscar bait kind of film that he would probably ever make. I think, but no, I did enjoy it. But it's definitely like it was never ever going to be as good as Citizen Kane. Let's be honest. But
Yeah.
it did show the real guy that Kane is based on, William Randolph Hearst. It did show how and why he kind of got on Mankiewicz's wrong side, and why they kind of wanted to make the film, and the kind of influence he had over all of culture, all of society at that time. So yeah, from that point of view, it's interesting to see how they went about actually kind of making writing the script at least.
Yeah. So the film is based on Charles Foster Kane, who is a mishmash of William Randolph Hearst, as you just said, and Joseph Pulitzer, known for the famous prize. The film is about Charles Foster Kane, who has just passed away, and his infamous last words, or word, Rosebud. We see this whole slideshow put together of his whole life, and at the end, the guys who've made it are like, okay, I've just seen what I'll read in any newspaper. We need some sort of hook. Here's the hook. We need to figure out what Rosebud means, and that is basically what the film is. Then is this guy Jerry going along to all the different people who are still alive from Kane's life, trying to figure out what Rosebud means, and yeah, the music is incredible. The cinematography is incredible. But like some of the shots in this film are like genuine contenders for some of the greatest shots of all time, especially in considering how like this came out in 1941. That is absurd. That is absolutely
Yeah,
crazy that some of these shots are in that film. The most famous example is the shot where a young Charles Foster Kane is playing outside in the snow, and we see him in the window, and all in the same shot. The camera then pulls in through the sitting room into another room, but we're still able to see Charles playing outside with his sled in the snow, and in not even in the sitting room, but in the kitchen, because we've gone through the sitting room, his mother is basically signing him away to the bank for X amount of money, 50 grand a year, I think it is, because this very rich banker needs an heir, essentially. And just the way that this whole shot is composed is mind blowing, considering that this is 1941. The depth of field that this film has, and I know this sounds boring because you want us to talk about like Charles Foster Kane and Rosebud and all that, but just it's insane
it
to me
is.
how you do this
No,
in
totally.
1941. It's the depth of field. There's other shots as well. Whenever Jerry goes to read the diary of that banker, where just beforehand, the room he goes into has this unbelievably long table and just this one light shining over it, which is basically coming like from the heavens. And just the way that whole scene is shot is a joke. Some of the transitions in this film are transitions that I to this day wouldn't know how the fuck to do. The one where it's the picture of the Inquirer, which is the newspaper company that Charles Foster Kane takes over, and then that basically becomes his empire. Their biggest rivals are the Chronicle, and the Chronicle have the best team going, and we see a picture of the Chronicle's team, almost like a football lineup or like a school photo in the newspaper, and then that picture transitions into them being on it, and then basically Charles Foster Kane announcing that he has signed every single staff member from the Chronicle, and then we go into a big party. There's other ones as well. The opening of this film with Rosebud and the snow globe, that is maybe the best shot opening to a film ever. Like it's absurd how good Greg Toland and Orson Welles do with just making this film look the way it does, because it is one of the best looking and best shot films in the history of cinema, in my opinion. It's a joke.
Yeah, and the narration as well at the start, which obviously gives
Yeah,
essentially Kane's entire backstory. Like that's something that had been done in since sound cinema came in. Obviously, like as well, even in silent cinema, you'd have the kind of cards which tell you what's going on in the story.
yeah,
But in sound cinema, like I've definitely seen some films where it used narration obviously as a tool in that way. But I don't think anything had ever been as effective as how succinctly it would lay out how like Kane's entire backstory,
hmm,
from obviously his upbringing to his death, like literally caught the cradle. So succinctly in the space of like 2 or 3 minutes at the start of the film, and obviously the narration would, I think there's one or two other points, but like in terms of it lays out for you exactly the stakes of the film in that 3 minutes maybe. It's so economical, this script. Another reason obviously why it's so incredible, and so why it's so groundbreaking, because it managed to do so much with so little really. Like yeah, it's incredible, that kind of narration and what it manages to convey about about Kane's life in such a short space of time.
yeah. No, the writing is off the charts in this film. There's so many lines in this film are just absolutely genius. Probably my favorite is Kane's first wife is the niece of the president, and as we're going through the sort of downfall of their relationship because he keeps coming home
Yeah, it's so good.
from work late at night, she basically calls the newspaper his mistress, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm not there that often. Like, what's your issue with the newspaper?" And then she says, "Oh well, you're calling at the president of the United States," and he's like, "You're complaining that I'm calling out your uncle." And she said, "Well, he is the president of the United States." And his response is, "Yes, well, that is a mistake that will be fixed in due time." Ah, so good, so unbelievably good. Yeah. Shout out as well, of course, to Joseph Cotton,
Yeah,
a longtime collaborator of Orson Welles, who has been on the podcast before
a couple of
and will
times.
be on
Yeah,
the podcast plenty more times. His performance in this is fantastic as well, both as a young Leland and as an older, slightly senile Leland who's just obsessed with cigars. Yeah, he's fantastic. But if you want to talk about acting performances, again, Orson Welles is absolutely incredible as Charles Foster Kane. He is amazing. There's one scene in particular. It's that scene where they've signed all of the Chronicles staff, and there's the party, which also ends up turning into Kane's leaving party because he's going to go and travel Europe where he plans on collecting statues. And just the way Wells like projects his voice in that, he's just oozing with charisma and like bravado and charm and wit. He is incredible. He is absolutely incredible. One of the best performances I think we will cover of the year as well is Orson Welles. He is yeah. Who do you even compare Orson Welles to in football terms? Who on earth started this good? Like I don't think there is a footballing comparison.
maybe Messi.
Maybe Michael Richards. Like he burst onto the scene with this film. But oh my god. No, Orson Welles is yeah, he to say he's like one of the most talented, this is one of the most talented directorial debuts of all time is an understatement. But then to throw in his writing ability and his performance, it's one of the single greatest achievements by a person in cinematic history, I would say. Maybe the greatest achievement is Orson Welles' entire workings of Citizen Kane. Like everything he does with this film. Uh, Genuinely maybe the greatest achievement in cinema history.
Yeah, now if you haven't figured out by now, this is probably just going to be an entire podcast of us gushing over this film with like very little actual analysis. Which, if you want
Yeah,
analysis, I'm
it's
sure.
it's Citizen Kane.
Yeah,
Like if you want to listen to analysis in Citizen Kane, go read a Roger Ebert review or
that's the thing.
something.
Like,
We're just gonna talk about how class this
yeah,
is.
it's just there's so much material out there that you can go seek about people who will be able to articulate it better than we can. But like, as far as if you just want to like just appreciate this absolute mastery, go check out Citizen Kane and then just listen to us maybe. But yeah, the hair and makeup
Yeah.
is like exceptional throughout the film.
Yes.
Because
As you said, it's caught to cradle. So like we
yeah,
are literally going from 24, 25 year old
essentially, yeah, mid,
yeah, 25-year-old Charles Foster
yeah,
Kane, because on his 25th
yeah,
birthday he inherits the fortune all the way to his death.
all the way to his death, and not just him, by the way, like you said, Joseph Cotton, even
Yeah.
his second wife, Susie, even
Yeah.
she has some makeup later on in the film because we get the obviously scene then when years after she divorces Kane. So, but it's not just that, it's the body language. It's like the way he haunches his shoulders and he starts to like walk like a much older man, and his voice is kind of a little bit more crackly and a little bit deeper, but he still has that like stern authority that he's projecting with his voice. And you can still see the hubris that this character has, and he just believes that like anything he says will happen. If he wants to become a politician, that's just gonna happen. If he wants to become president, that's what's gonna happen. He even has a line where after he buys the Inquirer, like he makes some sort of line where he basically says they'll believe what I want them to believe. You can easily, like I know a lot of people, and I absolutely agree with this comparison, have made the comparison to David Fincher. David Fincher's The Social Network, and how he's basically like, obviously Zuckerberg is like a modern day real life, obviously
Charles Foster Kane, in fairness, yeah.
because he has this platform that he, and I'm sure there are other people, the current owner of X, for example, like there are other people who they just think that because they have this platform, they can feed whatever they want into their audience and they will just believe whatever they say. And in a lot of cases, let's be honest, they're true. Like they actually are proven right. Like that's just the unfortunate thing about it, but that's why the film is so prescient. It's actually able to deal with the fact that these people
Yeah.
exist, and they unfortunately are very, because of the cult of personality that they kind of draw upon, they are very kind of successful at what they do, even if obviously that comes with a lot of drawbacks as well.
Yeah, for another CM Punk reference, he does see himself as a voice of the voiceless
Yeah.
as well, of a cult of personality. But yeah, no, very, very timeless is this film. I was just thinking there, like, put a finger down if you see Elon Musk's tweets all the time.
Yeah,
Put a finger down if you actually follow him.
exactly. Yeah,
You're keeping one of your fingers in the air.
exactly.
Yeah, it's wild. As well, when he takes over the Inquirer, we see himself and Bernstein, who's another character in this film, and Leland. They decide with their first issue that they're going to put on the front cover their, what is it that they call it? The Declaration of Principles.
Yeah.
Which basically says that they're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And again, the callback to that is absolutely amazing because whenever after Kane's second wife Susie's acting and singing and stage career bombs with the critics, and Leland himself writes some pretty egregious things about her performances, and Kane ends up firing him for catching him asleep at his post drinking, writing such a bad review. He then, we find out, also sent him 25 grand as well as sacking him, to which Leland responded by tearing up the 25 grand check, putting it in an envelope, and then writing on a giant piece of paper the Declaration of Principles one more time. There's so many callbacks in this film that are amazing. And speaking of callbacks, because it is literally the bookend of the film, I was actually thinking, if you were to make a cinematic alphabet, surely the greatest X in cinema history has to go to Xanadu.
Yeah, definitely.
What an
Yeah.
unbelievable name of a location. What an unbelievable location itself. The way it's shot,
Yeah.
the way it's spoken about, the aura behind it, the importance of it. if we were to do a cinematic alphabet, which actually might be a funny YouTube video, which we might do, um, for me, X might just be Xanadu
I don't even think it
because
might
that
just be.
is
Would have to be Xanadu. I don't see anything else.
one of the greatest cinematic locations, and one step further, one of the greatest names of a cinematic location in cinema.
Yeah, 100%.
Citizen Kane's quite good. In case you haven't, picked up on it, we quite like this film.
Yeah, it's not half bad. While we're on a roll of just praising everything about this film, I do want to shout out Everett Sloan, who is not the first time he's worked with Orson Welles. He is also in Lady from Shanghai. He might be in one or two others as well. He's in Lady from Shanghai. He's the villain in that. He has such a distinctive face. So in this film, he plays Mr. Bernstein, who he's one of the guys who obviously is interviewed by the newspaper. But he's he's much more obviously like in favor of Charles Foster Kane. But he like, I don't know, I think he brings such a like, sorry, I think he brings such a likability to that role because like he's essentially like a cheerleader for Kane
He is the yes man of all yes men, basically.
Exactly. Like he's not someone who he's the one guy in the film who probably never questions Kane in any way whatsoever. But you completely buy into that. Like you said, he's a yes man. But I also think he does genuinely believe that Kane is this.
Oh yeah, he's drinking that Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it's not just a case that he just wants his paycheck at the end of the week. He literally like idolizes this man. When you think about that, and then you think about the performance he gives in Lady from Shanghai, which is the polar opposite, and he's just it's such a like a cartoon villain almost. Great stuff. Shout out to that guy because one of the supporting like he's not. It wouldn't be like a random guest side character because he's in the film a good bit, but like as far as like side characters as they were to go, shout out to him because he's great as Mr. Bernstein.
Yeah, I don't think there is any. If there was one award that Citizen Kane isn't going to be nominated for at the end of the year, probably is best random side character. I don't think there is any random side characters in this that are. Yeah, it's the only award that it's not going to get nominated for. Spoiler alert. But yeah, the campaign of Charles Foster Kane, that whole sort of arc, it is semi-episodic, this film, because we are going from interview to interview, so we are basically getting like these small little episodes in the life of Charles Foster Kane, and the episode, so to speak, about his campaign for governor and ultimate failure to become president of the United States, which is one of his goals in life, is amazing. It is one of the most iconic shots in all of cinema, and believe it or not, this film has a few of those. But the shot of Charles Foster Kane in front of the enormous poster of himself is one of the greatest, I would say, political shots in cinema history. Like, come on, man. You're just, you've literally just got a giant poster of yourself whilst you're on stage. You've also written it and you're directing it. Orson Welles, how dare you? How very dare you? It's just so good.
And that shot where when Susie's on stage for the first time, and obviously she's not a great singer, but he's after the performance, he's just sitting there in silence.
Yeah.
And there's like
after piling money into singing lessons,
and it's like a
to
shadow.
Try and
you can't really tell if he's pissed off, if he's proud, if he's what's going on. And then like because it's not a very good performance, the crowd are somewhat subdued. And then as he just kind of slowly starts to clap, and then it gets louder and faster, and then he kind of gets up slowly
as the rest of the claps start to die down.
Exactly, and then they're like, "Oh, for fuck's sake! Now we have to go." This person standing on, just like, and it just goes to show in such a succinct moment, like that this guy did have people in the palm of his hand. They've just felt like they had no choice. I mean, he literally gets all of his newspapers to give out propaganda about how great his wife is, about how
literally
the shows are selling out, about how great she is, when everyone can know that neither of those things are true. They're not selling out, and they're definitely not. If they are selling out, it's because he's giving the tickets away at probably a major discount, or people feel they have to buy them because they're associated with them. But like the shows themselves are definitely not good whatsoever. But because of the status he has, again, he can just get people to do and think what he wants. Another example of that, like he's, oh man, this film just works in so many levels.
Yeah. So Rosebud is the word on everyone's lips. Basically, these fellas, Jerry in particular, are trying to figure out what Rosebud means. And as we meet Bernstein and we meet his second wife, Susie, his first wife died, and we meet Leland. We then eventually meet his butler, who thinks he knows what Rosebud means. Because when Susie decides that she's had enough living in Xanadu, which is basically a giant labyrinth of just loneliness and not seeing anyone. Charles Foster Kane flips his shit and absolutely trashes the room. She walks out on him, never to see him again, until he picks up the snow globe, which we saw from the opening scene, and he says Rosebud under his breath as he walks out. And all the staff were privy to this, and the butler saw it as well. So that is the only sort of inclination we get as to what Rosebud means. And yeah, so worth noting, when that banker, Mr. Thatcher,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, uh, decides to take Charles away from his parents, Charles basically tried to fight him off with his sled, and he ended up having to leave his sled behind as the banker takes him away. And as they're clearing out Xanadu after Charles Foster Kane has died, and they have millions of dollars worth of statues and paintings and artifacts and jigsaws that they don't know what to do with, they throw out what they assume to be the rubbish, including his childhood sled, which says Rosebud on it, which gets burned in the inferno. So no one in this world will ever know the meaning of Rosebud. It's really interesting how everyone kind of speculates, or how some people speculate as to what it is. Bernstein originally is convinced it's a girl because Charles just got so many girls, and then he's like, oh, maybe it's something he lost. Whereas Leland is very quick to just be like, I don't know what it is. It's very interesting how Rosebud, it's become one of the most I keep using the word, but it's one of the most iconic lines, and it's one of the most iconic. Would you call it a twist, or is it
Yeah,
more
I
just like
think.
a? It's more like the answer to a riddle, if
Yeah, it's
anything.
it's a reveal more than a twist. I would
Yeah, it's a
say.
reveal. It's a
Yeah,
reveal. Exactly. It's one of the most iconic reveals and lines in cinema history. Shane, what does Rosebud mean to you?
yeah. I mean, it's the closing reveal. The first of all, the opening line, and then the closing reveal of like
Yeah.
easily one of the greatest films of all time. Um, every time I see the word Rosebud, like Citizen Kane will come to mind for me. So it has that going for it. Yeah, just absolutely amazing. Like I love how there's one of the journalists, one of the newspapermen says like I don't actually think someone's life can be boiled down to one word or one phrase, etc. So like
Exactly. Yeah.
the sort of film does kind of leave you with that, like, fuck, it's not going to reveal it after all. What's this all been for? Kind of thing. And then, oh yeah, it drops the dagger. So, but
Yeah.
sorry, but it is like because it's like you like essentially a caught to cradle, maybe not quite caught to cradle, but it's like very early in his life to his death, because the film is
Yeah.
encompassing his essentially his whole life. We do obviously see as well as glimpses into his childhood, but then you can see like it's essentially because he never asked for this life, he was like forced into it, and Rosebud is like the last time he could truly be happy. Rosebud is the last time he kind of was able to think for himself and do what he wanted, as opposed to what everyone else was molding him to be. So
Yeah.
yeah, just amazing reveal.
It's also effectively one of the many bookmarks in this film, because it is basically caught to cradle, because as far as the film is
That's
concerned,
true.
and as far as Charles Foster Kane is concerned, and as far as Jerry and the other lads are concerned, his life started when he was taken away by that
Yeah,
banker.
that's true.
So when he started his life, we obviously see him with Rosebud, and as he dies, the last thing he can think of is Rosebud. Again, there is a bit of bookmarking there. by Mr. Charles Foster Kane himself with his life. Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
it's
Like,
so
actually, it is hilarious. It is almost comical how much Citizen Kane does live up to the hype, because it's like so many films that are considered to be the greatest film of all time, or one of the greatest films of all time, or one of the greatest examples of anything. Being human, we do sit there with like a level of cynicism, being
yeah.
like, "Oh well, it can't be that great." Citizen Kane shits on that whole idea, like just absolutely dunks on that whole idea that something can't be as great as its reputation suggests. Because yeah, it is, for me, one of the greatest movies ever made. Uh, I suppose I'm happy to get into my review, unless you've much else you want to say.
No, just
I
that.
realize all we've kind of done is praise the movie, so
That's the thing. Like it, well, just it's just that it's a timeless film. So like it's just as relevant now as it was when it was made.
yeah,
For so many reasons. That's about it. Yeah.
yeah. No, shock horror. Harry gives another film 5 stars, and it's Citizen Kane, so you really can't argue with me there. It is literally one of the greatest movies ever made. Orson Welles turns in one of the most incredible performances. His direction is unbelievable. It's so ahead of its time. It's a film, and it's a strange thing to say if you haven't. Sorry, it's a strange thing probably to hear if you haven't seen it before. But it's a film that really does feel like almost 3D, with how Wells moves through walls
I know what I
and
mean. Yeah.
moves through windows and works his way around scenes with long takes and tracks characters with his camera. It doesn't feel like a person stood in front of a backdrop, because that's just not what it is. Wells basically brought a whole new level of realism, which makes this one of the most important films ever made. I think Joseph Cotton is phenomenal. I think the writing in this film is perfect. I think the music is amazing. Greg Toland's cinematography, one of the greatest performances by a cinematographer of all time.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, Greg Toland also did the cinematography on Wuthering Heights, which Orson Welles turned down a role in before this. Kind of funny. Like, what a guy to just like turn down Wuthering Heights with William Wyler and Laurence Olivier before you've even made a film. Like, this man,
Such an enigma.
quite like Charles Foster Kane himself, this man just saw the vision and just committed to it. And maybe there's a lesson to be learned there for all of us. But yeah, Citizen Kane is considered by many to be one of the greatest films of all time, and I do genuinely, honestly believe that there are a few stronger candidates than Citizen Kane. I don't think an objective greatest movie of all time exists, but I think if someone says that it's Citizen Kane, it is very, very hard to dispute that, because like there's not. I don't know how you top Citizen Kane. I don't think I wouldn't label it as the single greatest film of all time, but I also don't know if you can find a film that is stylistically, artistically, just in general, just better than Citizen Kane. It is the Citizen Kane of all films, and also Paddington 2 is very good as well. Just shout out Paddington 2, because it's probably just below, if not par. So yeah, 5 stars, Citizen Kane. What about you, Shane?
Yeah. Literally co-sign everything you just said. Look, I don't necessarily have an opinion on what is the greatest film of all time. If I did, my opinion would probably change every day.
Yeah,
Obviously, because film is just so subjective. But like I said, like you just said, if anyone came to me and said, right, the best film of all time is Citizen Kane, like I couldn't argue with them. I wouldn't argue with them. I know exactly where they were coming from. Which even for other films like that we've covered in the podcast that are considered the greatest of all time, you can at least make some arguments against them, because maybe the camera's not quite as interesting, or maybe the performance, etc., etc. There could be any number of reasons why, but Citizen Kane just literally has everything going for it. Like what I just said there a second ago, it is a timeless film, just as relevant now as it was when it was made. And yeah, when it comes to like announcing your arrival on the cinematic stage, like there probably isn't a better example than Orson Welles with Citizen Kane. Absolutely stupendous stuff. If you somehow have not seen Citizen Kane before, if you somehow have not seen Citizen Kane before, please, we both implore you to just watch Citizen Kane
Yeah.
when you can.
What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing? Just watch Citizen Kane. Like, why is it still on your watch list? Watch it now. But yeah, that is Citizen Kane. I reckon before we go, because we've plenty of time, that we discuss a few movies that we've watched recently. This is from the episode of the Golden Hour Film Podcast where we discussed Citizen Kane. So yes, can't imagine we'll be naming many films that are quite Citizen Kane level. But that being said, I myself have watched a lot of great ones because, as I said at the top of the podcast, I have just returned home from the Cannes Film Festival. I saw 10 films whilst I was there. Almost all of them good, and a few of them great. So yeah, I am very much looking forward to getting into that. But Shane, why don't you go first, because I actually forget what I talked about last time.
Yep.
I don't know where in my diary does it end, if you get me.
Yeah, no problem. So first up, Francis Ford Coppola's The Outsiders, which I hadn't seen before. Essentially like Coppola's version of a teen drama. So a bunch of boys. It's essentially West Side Story but without the musical in a way. Like think about West Side Story without the musical elements. It's pretty much it, and without maybe the romantic subplot as well. But Tom Cruise, very small role in this. Matt Dillon's in it, Ralph Macchio's in it, Patrick Swayze's in it, Rob Lowe's in it, Emilio Estevez in it. Like a bunch of really big names, obviously. Didn't really click fully for me, I'll be honest. Definitely like lower tier Coppola in my opinion, from what I've seen. So yeah,
Could have done with Leo G. Carroll is what I'm hearing.
yeah, exactly. Should have slapped Leo G. Carroll in there. Andor, which obviously is a TV show, but is, in my opinion, and again, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan, so maybe this is blasphemy for people who are going to about to, for some people about to listen. In my opinion, Andor is my favorite Star Wars property I've ever seen. Absolutely sensational television show. Again,
I keep going to start it and then I don't. I'm terrible. I don't watch TV series for those watching. I'm terrible for. I have seen very few TV series in my entire life.
Yeah.
But Andor is the one that I keep going to watch and then something stops me.
Andor is like, it is, and it's a bit of a, like it's a bit of a joke online maybe, but it is true. It's Star Wars for adults. Like it's none of this, it's none of this corny dialogue which I sometimes just grind up against. Maybe it's none of this like slightly childish line deliveries and stuff like that. It's just it's straight down the middle. It's completely politically mature. It's Tony Gilroy operating at a maximum level. Anyway, that's Andor. So because that's a prequel to Rogue One, which it's obviously itself a prequel to the main Star Wars trilogy. But obviously, after I finished Andor, it leads right directly into Rogue One. And I had seen Rogue One, I enjoyed it when I first saw it. So I was like, right, I'm gonna enjoy it probably even more. Weirdly, I probably enjoyed it just as much, if not slightly less. I'm not sure why. I expect maybe just because I expected to like it more than I did the first time around. With the benefit of Andor of 2 full seasons of the most incredible television show, one of the most incredible television shows ever. Yeah, it's still good. It's still very good. But yeah, probably was hoping for a little bit. I was hoping for probably to connect with me slightly more than it actually ended up. Yeah, Cassian Andor, we stand the king. Amazing character. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Obviously, again, Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, which I'm about to talk about, so I wanted to just kind of give myself a refresher about that. Mission Impossible, one of my favourite franchises of all time. Absolutely adore them. Dead Reckoning is just so good. It's so funny. I would say, I do think it's the funniest Mission Impossible film. Like, there's so much Buster Keaton-esque comedy in there, especially the car chase in Rome, which is just hilarious. So much slapstick physical comedy in there, but it's also like McHugh and Cruise operating at the most uh, like this is a film that loves a monologue and loves like the gravitas of giving a great actor and like just a dramatic monologue and having it be absolutely like riveting, and it has about 7 of those throughout the film. It's just so good. Yeah, I love Dead Reckoning. So that obviously led into the final reckoning, which, yeah, I'll be honest, I really enjoyed in the end. That first hour was a bit of I was fearing the worst. I'll be honest, it was a bit of a chore. Loads of flashbacks. For some reason, it's like they didn't trust the audience to remember key plot points from previous films, or else they also maybe, or they also wanted maybe people who hadn't necessarily seen every single Mission Impossible up to then to be like, right, in case you're lost here, this is what this is about. I don't know, just the film always treats, or sorry, this franchise always treats its audience with like the utmost respect, as in like it trusts you to get everything you're going for. So from that point of view, it was kind of disappointing that I would kind of go the way of modern blockbusters where it's just force feeding you everything you need to know. But after that first hour, I will say it picks right up, and the two main stunts are as good as anything that's ever been in a Mission Impossible film, if not in almost any action film I've ever seen. The submarine sequence is like a silent horror film. It's not quite silent, obviously, but it's essentially, it's it's such a like so dark and so, I'm gonna say, I mean, visually, it's so visually dark because it's right at the bottom of the ocean. It's so tense. Like it is shot like a horror film, and then the final biplane climax is just Tom Cruise at his most uh, death-defying madman best. Like the guy has a death wish, but if he keeps giving us these amazing films, I'm all here for it. So yeah, it's not quite at the tippy top of my Mission Impossible rankings, but in the end, I had a really good time with it, so I'm happy to report that. Um, and then a couple of Wes Anderson films. So I've talked about before. I'm not necessarily the biggest.
Go on, Wes.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Wes fan, I would say. I had originally booked a ticket to see Fantastic Mr. Fox in London. Couldn't go because my phone broke, so I had to get all that sorted. Anyway, I watched it on Disney Plus instead. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Probably the most I've enjoyed a Wes Anderson film, if I dare say. The animation, stop motion animation, is absolutely gorgeous to look at. Alexandra Desplat's score is great. The voice performances obviously are all good. Maybe it's because it's like based on a story that I already knew, obviously, as a kid growing up. Fantastic Mr. Fox, but yeah, really enjoyed it. And then his newest film, The Phoenician Scheme. I've seen Anderson acolytes say that this isn't necessarily the most favorite. Well, like, it's not one of their most favorite Wes Anderson films. It's weird for me. I probably enjoyed it more than they seem to. It did click for me, especially the first 2 acts. I do think the final act probably is a little bit bumpy, maybe, but I don't know. Just I connected with it more than I usually do with Wes Anderson films. It's weird because the 4 short films he made for Netflix last year, I think there was one I didn't enjoy, but the other 3 I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But for some reason, yeah, his feature films are always a bit hit and miss for me. I always feel like I'm missing out on something. I always feel a bit guilty for not necessarily getting, like, for not necessarily being as in the bag for Wes as everyone else seems to be. Like maybe I'm just not getting it or something. But I do enjoy The Phoenician Scheme. Did enjoy that, and yeah, I think there's still a few Wes Anderson films I haven't seen, but I do want to check them all out because if nothing else, maybe I'll just, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to like force myself to like his stuff, but I also want to kind of see what everyone else gets from his films.
I've seen every single one of his films. I've seen every single one of his films, and I like all of them. So,
but yeah, like I did enjoy these two, Fantastic Mr. Fox and The Phoenician Scheme. So yeah, I'm happy to report that. What about you,
Harry? Well, as I said, I went to the Cannes Film Festival, so I did what I had to do, which is watch the only Irish Palme d'Or winner before I went for the first time, may I add, which is blasphemy that this is the first time I've ever seen it.
Really?
But yeah, I had never seen The Wind That Shakes the Barley before, and it is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah,
it is like if you were to bump into, if you're not Irish, if you were to bump into an Irish person in the street and say what's the best Irish movie ever made, 9 out of 10 would probably say The Wind That Shakes the Barley if
Yeah,
they're somewhat informed when it comes to film.
I agree.
And yeah, you want to talk about films that live up to the hype. The Wind That Shakes the Barley absolutely blew me away.
I'm really sorry to cut
It's a
across.
very important. It's a very important story in our history.
Yeah, look, sorry to cut across, but I really respect the fact that Ken Loach is a legend of cinema, of left leaning cinema, and like I just really respect the fact that he's this English guy. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't necessarily know that there's an Irish director who could have done a better job. Maybe there is. Maybe
yeah,
I'm not giving proper like due, but I love the fact that he's English, but he gives the most faithful, the most like respectful version of this story. It doesn't try
yeah.
and sugarcoat anything. Sorry to cut across your review, but yeah.
No, 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 no. It's a very common theme, and it seems that the English are starting to cop onto it now. That the English don't tend to actually get educated on what the English did to the Irish. So yeah, it is very ironic, and if anything, fitting that an Englishman and Ken Loach made one of the best depictions, if not the best depiction of just that. Yeah, it is absolutely incredible. I then watched a film of a similar storyline and importance to our country, and that's Ted 2. I'm not joking. Ted 2 is better than I remember it being. It's
It's not
actually
bad. Yeah,
really
it's not
funny.
bad.
No, it's actually really funny. I don't know why. When I sat down to watch it, I was like, I thought I didn't like this, but no, Ted 2 is funny. Ted 2 is a good film. I then saw Raw because I was going to see Julia Ducournau's new film at Cannes. I'd already seen Titan, so I saw Raw. I don't think Raw's. Maybe I'm being harsh. Maybe I don't even believe myself here. I was going to say I don't think Raw is quite the level of Titan, but it is incredible. It actually is an incredible movie. I love how with those two films, Ducournau takes the most almost everyday issue that someone has and
Yeah.
just goes crazy with it. Like it's a thing that you would hear that happens to someone, and you're like, oh, that's terrible. But then where she then takes the narrative is crazy. So the film is basically about uh, a young woman who wants to be a vet. She's a vegetarian, and part of the initiation at this school is that they all have to eat like basically the thrown away bits of meat from when they're like dissecting animals to like do the anatomy lessons and stuff. And where that film goes, insane. Julia Ducournau, absolute. It's an absolute classic. It's an incredible film. I then watched The Naked Gun for the first time, and yeah, it got a lot of laughs out of me. Yeah, I think Shane basically said everything I would have said about this film when he first watched it and talked about it on the podcast. So yeah, The Naked Gun is very funny, and yeah, the OJ stuff is just hilarious to me. Then the last film I watched before Cannes is a film that we absolutely need to cover on the podcast one day, and that is Gun Crazy. It is a film noir from 1950 starring Peggy Cummins, one of Ireland's best actresses at the time, and John Dahl, who you all know from Rope. It is unbelievable. One of the best film noirs I've ever seen. It takes the Bonnie and Clyde formula, even though it's came out before Bonnie and Clyde. But it's so fascinating because John Dahl's character, Bart, he's not into this at all. He hates the idea of robbing banks. He hates the idea of shooting people. He is terrified of the whole thing, and basically Peggy Cummins' character sort of swindles and lies and tricks him into doing things he doesn't realize he's doing. And yeah, it goes the way of your Thelma and Louise's and your Bonnie and Clyde's of the world. And oh my god, this film absolutely blew me away. I wouldn't go as far as to call it one of my favorite films I've ever seen. It is an incredible film, but similar to Django, in how I just couldn't get over how much I was enjoying. It just blew me away how much I was absolutely loving this film. Gun Crazy is a phenomenal film from 1950. And then I saw some films at the Cannes Film Festival. So, first of all, I saw Die My Love, Lynn Ramsey's latest film starring Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence. And this is a trip. I had never seen any of Lynn Ramsey's films before, which was interesting because, not to go name dropping, but the two guys who I went in with are two directors who work with Richard Linklater, and Richard Linklater's daughter is in both of their films, which is interesting enough. And they were two huge Lynn Ramsey fans, so they were basically like, "Oh, you are in for a treat here," and yeah, I was absolutely in for a treat. They were so right. I am gonna go back and watch all of Lynn Ramsey's films that I've not seen because it's just dark. Jennifer Lawrence puts in an unbelievable performance. Animalistic is the best way to describe it, and when you see the film, you will understand that it is a very animalistic performance. She plays a woman who suffers from psychosis, and uh, herself and her husband move out to her husband's uncle's old house, which is in the middle of nowhere, and basically she's going nuts because of the flies, because of the silence. She falls pregnant. Everyone tells her that, oh, pregnancy changes you. It's a real mindfuck of a movie, but it's a real mindfuck in particular for Jennifer Lawrence's character because Robert Pattinson's character isn't the most likable character in the world, but everybody in the film seems to love to get on with him, but no one seems to try and make an effort. Yeah, couldn't recommend it enough. I then saw what was the best film that I saw at the film festival, in my opinion. That is Harris Dickinson's feature film debut, Urchin. Oh my god. One of my favorite subgenres in film is a rogue lead character just making the wrong decision over and over and over and over again, and you watch them like sometimes fix their life and then fuck it up again, similar to Uncut Gems, similar to Good Times, similar to After Hours. But this has a real heartfelt and important message about how the British government treats homeless people, and how little avenues they actually have to get back on their feet again. Yeah, Frank Delan, who you probably all would know as teenage Voldemort in that flashback in Half-Blood Prince, the one with the hair. He is the lead in this. He is unbelievable. Again, for me, probably the best performance I saw, or at least the best male performance I saw in any film at Cannes. I couldn't recommend Urchin enough. It is unbelievable. It is an incredibly important film, and the end, like, Harris Dickinson's got so much sauce, and that ending is so ballsy, and it so works for me, and it just proves how much sauce he has. Because, yeah, it's a predominantly like easy to follow narrative. Like, narratively, there's nothing sort of tricky about this film, but there are little glimpses where you can tell that Harris Dickinson is going that one step further, and he's really probing questions with his audience. And then the ending happens, and it is, yeah, it's genius, absolutely genius. I then watched Pillion, which I didn't know what Pillion was. I think Shane, I don't know, did you see my... Yeah. Pillion is a rom-com, initially set at Christmas, starring Alexander Skarsgård and Harry Melling. Harry Melling, who you all know as Dudley Dursley from Harry Potter again, or from The Queen's Gambit. He was also very good in that. But yeah, it's a gay BDSM biker sex fetish rom-com. Did not know. I had no idea what the plot to this movie was, because the poster is just Alexander Skarsgård in a motorbike outfit.
I love how Alexander Skarsgård is such a weirdo. He just makes all these takes all these freak roles. Good for him. Obviously.
No, he is so bizarre in this film. It is such a bizarre film, but it is absolutely hilarious. Like, I'm talking belly laughs at the cinema. Everyone was cackling at this film. It is real dark. And if I'm honest, I'm not a huge fan of the ending of this film. I didn't really like where it went in the end. But This film is absolutely hilarious. Like at first I was like, oh, is this gonna be like a new Christmas favorite of mine? And then we just like 5 minutes into the film get like full on dick and balls on screen, and I'm like, whoa, what is this film about? And then it just gets so very, yeah, it throws you the deep end early. Let's just say that.
I love. Sorry to
Then
put
the
it
next
across it.
day,
Stellan Skarsgård has a film from Joachim Trier at the festival as well. Sentimental Value actually won the Grand Prix, right? But he was asked about
yeah.
Alexander Skarsgård in this, about what the kind of role it is, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm proud of him." Something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, I'm proud of him. That's the kind of role I want him to do." It's so weird. I love it.
No, it is.
Weirdos.
His character is yeah, yeah.
That's deadly.
But like, I can't lie. I wholeheartedly do recommend Pillion though. It's a wild film, and you will probably be like semi uncomfortable the entire time. But it is hilarious. It is really funny. The next day, I then saw the Phoenician Scheme to begin with. I really liked it. Yeah, I have to say, Michael Cera and Wes Anderson is a match made
Oh
in
man,
heaven. Michael
jeez.
Cera is phenomenal in this movie. So great.
The
That
most
first
Wes
scene
Anderson
after the
actor.
plane crash, that first
Oh
scene after the plane crash, when the hair and the lack of a tie is, and the cigarette is hilarious. This is probably one of Wes's funniest films I've seen in a long time. Um, yeah, like probably as funny for me, probably his funniest film since Grand Budapest Hotel. But I put it right up there for one of Wes's funniest films. This film is hilarious. I then saw Nouvelle Vague, which yeah, if a film was made for someone, I think Nouvelle Vague was I am the target audience in Nouvelle Vague. I literally have a Breathless poster right there. Uh, yeah, Nouvelle Vague is amazing. I absolutely adore this film. It's just Richard Linklater being such a nerd,
yeah.
and I'm like so here for it. He's basically just like, all right, here's how they made Breathless. Here's so many people who are French and were around in the 60s and had stuff to do with cinema. Okay, fine, they can have one line of dialogue, but I'm going to give them a little name card, and then I'm just going to throw name cards all over this film so that you go, oh, the whole time. Yeah, Breathless is amazing. I have to say, the lead performance by, I can't say I was hugely familiar with him, but Mr. Marbeck. Mr. Marbeck is fantastic in this film as Jean-Luc Godard. He is so good. I know a couple of people were saying that Zoe Dutch wasn't for them in this film. I liked her performance. I personally liked her performance. But yeah, I then saw Highest to Lowest. My jaw hit the floor. This film is so baffling to me. The first half of this film is like an airplane movie. It's like bad green screen when they're driving in cars, generic television background score. It's bizarre. The score is diabolical and the soundtrack is phenomenal. You're going from like these needle drops of James Brown, and well, actually, ASAP Rocky song. This is really catchy. To like the most Darman level music in the background, like just something that looks like a TikTok trash, or sounds like, I should say. Uh, Denzel's performance improves massively throughout the film. He's yeah, wild. But then ASAP Rocky's character shows up and just saves the film. ASAP Rocky is genuinely very good in this film, and Denzel really put his all into the scenes where he's opposite ASAP Rocky. The scene where they first encounter each other is genuinely so good. It's really good, and it's one of the very few examples in this film as like a legit reason for this film to even exist. Like the first half of the film is just a remake of High and Low, but not very good, and it looks terrible, and the score is diabolical. And for some reason, the white cop is just like such an arsehole to Jeffrey Wright, like such an arsehole to him. It's bizarre because like the performances aren't great either. And everyone's so like emotionally flat, like, oh, my son's been kidnapped. Fuck. Fuck, no, he's been kidnapped, man. What do I do? Ah, he's been kidnapped. Well, we better wait for the kidnappers to ring us. So, like, it's bizarre. And then, yeah, ASAP Rocky shows up, and I don't want to say ASAP Rocky saves the whole film, but the film becomes infinitely more interesting from when he's on screen till the end of the film. Um, yeah, the film's clearly high and low, but the moral of the story is like how, in particular, rappers, but basically how like people in this day and age can become famous online for doing heinous things. That's obviously why Spike Lee made it, but fuck me, did that first hour just kill me? Terrible, terrible. But overall, the film like averages out as fine because the second act is very good. That whole train sequence with the Puerto Rican parade is so long, so very long. And then the next day, my final day, I saw four films. First of all, I saw Once Upon a Time in Gaza, which everybody going into the festival thought was going to be a really harrowing film about what's going on in Palestine, the genocide that's happening at the moment in Palestine. But no, this is just a wild film. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But basically, the first act of this film is like a crime drug drama, and then the second act is like a mockumentary because one of the characters from the first act gets scouted and becomes an actor. And then it's like a mockumentary about Gaza Wood, and they're basically trying to make a movie whilst the drone strikes are happening. And then the third act turns into this like Western revenge thriller, like a Clint Eastwood film, where he's trying to hunt a guy down and murder him. And yeah, the film opens with Donald Trump's "will turn Palestine into a Middle Eastern Riviera" speech. That is amazing out of context. It's so great. And as well, a guy uses two falafel machines and a rope to murder someone. Incredible. Would definitely recommend. I then saw Eagles of the Republic, which is this Egyptian political thriller. It's good. It's very dark. And that's about all it kind of has going for it, to be honest. Then I saw Alpha, Julia Ducournau's new film. It did not work for me. I'm really annoyed. I really wanted to love this because I love her other two films, but no. Um, it just spends the whole time in third gear. Uh, with her other films, it's like there's like metaphors going on, but then there's like subtext to those metaphors, and like there's like a whole load of things for you to try and unravel. It's very blatant what this film is about, and look, the obviously what it's about is a important topic and was obviously a very important topic during the time of the AIDS epidemic, but it's incredibly in your face. Like if we're just talking from like an artistic standpoint, like it's just bizarre how um in your face the references are. Like it's just not on the same level of the other two films. It's a silly way to like boil it all down to, but it's just not as good. It's just not. Uh, yeah, I don't see myself ever rewatching Alpha. Not for me, unfortunately, because it was one of the films I was most looking forward to. And then, lastly, I saw Exit 8, which was really good. I really enjoyed it. It is based on that video game, which I've never played. I'm not much of a gamer myself, where basically a man is in the train station and he goes down the platform and he goes and turns a corridor to Exit 8. And then he turns a corridor and then another corridor and then another corridor. And then he's back at Exit 8. And he's stuck there. And then eventually he cops. There's rules written on the side which says, if you spot any anomalies, turn around. If you don't spot any anomalies, keep going forward. Work your way up to Exit 8. So basically, there's a 0 on the wall. So he's at like platform 0. He spots an anomaly. Blood starts leaking from the light bulb. So he turns around and he goes back, and then it's platform 1. And he basically has to work his way up to Exit 8 to get out. And yeah, this film is so great. It's also interesting how they basically took an indie video game and applied all sorts of meaning to it. Like, is it purgatory? He just found out that his wife, sorry, not his wife, he's just found out that a woman who he slept with is having a baby. Does he want her to keep it? Does he want to be there if she does? And he's got having all these thoughts whilst he's basically stuck in this platform, and then other characters, shall we say, then start appearing at Exit 8, and it's a trip of a film. But I absolutely recommend it. It's really, really interesting film coming out of Japan. Really great. And then, last but not least, I watched After Sun because my girlfriend had never seen After Sun, so I After Sunned her. We had a little cry. It's one of the greatest movies of the 21st century. And yeah, that's everything I watched recently.
Good stuff, yeah. You quite action packed up there over the last week or two, I'd say, for you.
Yes, very much so. The other thing I'll say is I'm kind of raging that I didn't get to see A Simple Accident or the other one, the one that you said, the one the Grand Prix.
Oh,
or sorry,
Sentimental Value.
Sentimental Value. They're the only two that I wish I got to see that I didn't get to see. They both came out on my last day, so I didn't really have a chance to see them, and History of Sound as well. But yeah, no, a lot of time in the cinema. Hence, no tan from the South de France here because I spent the whole time indoors. But yeah, Citizen Kane. Next week, Shane, do you want to tell them what we're going to be covering as we are embarking on our 2-month arc of Film Club Volume 2, the arc where we basically just pick and choose what we're going to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a return to the podcast for two people. Firstly, Nicholas Ray. So obviously we did Rebel Without a Cause earlier in the year, I believe it was. And we also did Casablanca. So obviously Humphrey Bogart is returning as well. So one of my favourite film noirs of all time. Quite brief as well, about 90 minutes long. So if you want to watch it in advance of obviously next week's episode, feel free to. It wouldn't take you long, and I am very confident that you will enjoy yourself. It's kind of along similar lines as Sunset Boulevard, where it's based in Hollywood, and it's very much a critique of Hollywood in a lot of ways.
I can't wait to watch it.
This murder mystery at the center of the film. So pretty riveting stuff there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So I think it's going to be a good next installment of the podcast as we get revved up in this new archiverse.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to In a Lonely Place for some time. Still haven't seen it, and thoroughly looking forward. But yeah, that was the Golden Hour Film Podcast episode where we discuss Citizen Kane. Next week is In a Lonely Place, starring Bogey himself. And thank you very much for all the support. Please feel free to leave a like on this video if you're watching on YouTube. If it's Spotify, leave a 5-star review. Why not? And if you're new around here on YouTube, subscribe, because that'd be pretty cool too. But yeah, Citizen Kane, it's pretty good. It's terrific. Citizen Kane. So we'll see y'all next week. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.